Hi, welcome to the Chew Over. I'm Nick,
And I'm Jay.
and today we are going to be discussing topics that interested us in the news in the last week, I guess, maybe a little bit longer, apparently. So, first up is a really fun story about a great white shark that is approaching, apparently getting pretty close to the UK. So, the shark is called, I think it's Nakumi, and it's the biggest shark to have left the. I need to get all these names right. I'm really bad with geography. I think it's Nakumi is the 3,541-pound shark who's left the coast of the United States and is heading down to like Britain way. It's kind of part way between Africa and Britain at the moment. I just think it's a really cool story, and sometimes you need something a little bit light and to break up the news cycle, and just a really cool thing. They tag these sharks with like satellite tracking and temperature tracking. It's just a really cool thing to talk about, and I just thought it was fun.
Yeah, I mean it's a massive killer shark heading towards the British coast. I mean, can't think of anything more light-hearted than that.
Light-hearted than a killer shark. I mean,
Yeah.
It's also apparent that they predict that the shark is pregnant, and I didn't know this. Sharks can live up to, well, this shark is apparently 50 years old, they say, and she's had enough children in her lifetime that those sharks have now had children themselves. So shark babies, love them, hate them. Let's hear from you in the comments about that. Slap a like for baby sharks. This is great. Yeah. I mean,
I guess we might as well move on to our BBC article if you don't have anything else on.
Absolutely not. I just wanted to point out how awesome baby sharks are. I think I'm just going to edit in clips of the baby shark between every now and again. Just like overlays.
So this next BBC article then is space junk map tracks 200 ticking time bombs. So this is actually 26,000 or something pieces of debris that they're now monitoring, and they've built a piece of software basically to kind of build a real-time map of all these, and it's quite interesting to look at, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying earlier how it's really important that we time it right. So because if the Earth is like this, if the Earth is like this and it's like horizontal, then yeah, we're in big trouble. But as long as the Earth is in the vertical position, we should just slide right by it.
Yeah, I mean, if that reduces the surface area, it feels to be better for us, I think.
Exactly. So as long as our flat Earth is in the vertical position, we'll be fine. But we do have to worry about the orbit that we produce.
Yeah, I mean, if it goes past us, it'll eventually come back again if it gets caught in the orbit.
Cool. But if we can time it just right, hopefully, if we do get the impact to be like slid right off the Earth, just like if it's like on a horizontal slope, it'll all be just downhill if the impact's hard enough. I love flat Earth jokes, man.
Yeah, I mean, on a more serious note, I mean, I kind of hate space debris. It blocks your view of the stars, and it's basically just trash we've left in space, really.
I mean, this is kind of the first time I've thought about it. I mean, a lot of the things we're going to talk about in podcasts now and in the future are going to be first for me because I'm a little bit ignorant, and that's okay. But yeah, junk in space. Well, it's kind of one of those things like how somebody way smarter than me is going to have to be able to solve it. And I don't know, can we just get like a massive magnet and just like pull the space junk?
I think there's a few different kind of theories and things that they're trying, from all over the world. But I don't know if there's something that's been kind of selected as the answer for this yet.
It just seems like all it's going to take is one thing to crash into another thing, and it's going to have a domino effect, and all these little bits of space littering are going to form like a central satellite, if you know what I mean. This is pseudoscience if I ever heard it before. But I mean, all you've got to think about is that without gravity, things crashing into things and amalgamating and creating, I guess, their own center of gravity over time. Like, this is completely showing how dumb I actually am when it comes to science. But yeah, if it's going to be a problem for Earth, someone will have to resolve it sooner rather than later. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, as these things come through the atmosphere, they tend to break up into lots of little pieces anyway. So it should only be small bits, that actually reach Earth generally. But yeah, what goes up has to come down, I suppose.
I mean, if there's no gravity, there is no up or down. But yeah, it's kind of like the big, they talk about in California, the big one, the big earthquake that's going to happen. Like they've been saying it for years. Oh, the big one's going to be coming, and it's going to wreck everything. It's going to destroy us all. Like future generations have the big space debris to look forward to. They're going to have the big one. It's going to be like, see all those bit of junk in space. Like one day they're all going to come together, going to form a union and crash into Earth.
Maybe the moon will fall out of its gravity with us and hit us.
Oh my god,
that would be the big one.
I took a picture yesterday. I was walking back from where I lived, like from the town where I live into where I live. I'm not going to disclose that information, but it looked like the moon had like a giant slash going through it. I don't know why. I'll put the picture on the screen, and like it reminded me of like, have you ever played Final Fantasy? Like Meteor, like somebody casting Meteor. Yeah, I just thought it was really cool. On the topic of space stuff, we have the SpaceX Dragon crew of 4 astronauts blast off to the International Space Station. Pretty groundbreaking for SpaceX and the SpaceX umbrella.
Yeah. I mean, there's a nice little video here of rocket taking off. It's always fun to look at that. Yeah, I think it's one of the first kind of manned missions for basically on behalf of NASA, I guess, to the International Space Station.
Yeah,
it's the first.
I mean, you were saying they're basically doing the technology side. SpaceX at a third of the price. No, was it like a quarter of the price that NASA would be paying like external contractors?
Yeah, something like that. It's much cheaper for the NASA to use SpaceX than their own rockets, basically.
I had every intention, and I hate myself for this. I had every intention of like going in depth and looking into like what built up what SpaceX actually built and contributed and how it's different, and I don't know how or why, but it just completely eluded me, and I just didn't get around to it. So all I've done is read this tiny article we've got in front of us, and that's it.
Well, yeah, it's their own. It's their own rocket and their own shuttle. It's all their own stuff.
Yeah. Do you know anything about the astronauts on board? I think there's 2 Americans, isn't there? And
there's some different. Yes, from some different places, aren't they? I believe there's 4 of them, isn't it?
Yeah, there's 4 of them. And yeah,
Thomas Pesquet, probably maybe French. Akihiko Hoshida from Japan.
That sounds Japanese, yeah. Yeah, Americans, Shane Kimbrough and Megan MacArthur. They're going 6 months into a 6-month tour of duty. I mean, that's terrifying in a weird way. I mean, it takes a lot to go into space. Not the physical actually getting there. I mean, like, you have to have a strong mental, if I was an astronaut, I'd probably break, genuinely. Like, because they're not allowed, I think it's like they're not allowed alcohol, they're not allowed like any muses at all up there, because if things go wrong, they need to be aware. Like, I was reading into that the other day.
Yeah, probably. You feel quite isolated, I'd imagine. And obviously you can't have anything loose in the air that might, get in the buttons or anything.
Exactly. Like, the restrictions would be crazy. I mean, it'd be such an honor to be one of the handful of people that can go to space. But juxtaposed to that is like, although it's an honor, it's kind of like it's such a responsibility, and that burden of responsibility would probably cloud over my anxious head like a bloody rain cloud. So yeah, I am fascinated by space, but part of me is also like, we've got the ocean, and there's so many depths of our own ocean that haven't been explored. And people are still discovering new species to this day, like in deep and underwater. And when you've got so much life on our own planet that we haven't heard of, you got to think like, we've been into space. Okay, we haven't gone too far into space, but we haven't discovered any life to my knowledge.
Just kind of some bacteria or something, I think, but yeah, nothing substantial.
What do you guys think about space in general? Do you think that what SpaceX are doing is significant? Do you think it's noteworthy? Do you have any opinions on it? I want to hear back from you.
I mean, we got a small update on the petition we mentioned last week. Thanks to everyone who signed it, and everyone who hasn't signed it probably should anyway. But there's over 14,000 signatures now, so that means there will be a response from a government MP or member. Ideally, really, we want 100,000 signatures, and then it'll actually go to debate in Parliament. That's what you really want.
So that's a repeal Section 127. Just a reminder and an introduction to the people that weren't watching the last video. It's the Communications Act of 2003. It's all going to be on the screen. Expunge all convictions. So if we can slap a like on this video to raise awareness, please, so we can actually get some traction on this and get this to Parliament. I will put links in the description for what the actual act is built up of, and you can see for yourselves what you're signing on to. Did you have anything more to say about Section 127?
Not really. It's just that we need more signatures.
Yeah. Put your names on this paper, guys. Crank out signatures. Let's talk to the government. Let's have a conversation. Bad software sent postal workers to jail. I'm guessing this is going to be all over the news already. Like, I can't imagine this is something that's going to escape the mainstream news cycle. And we're not exactly avoiding the mainstream news cycle. So for the unenlightened, the ignorant, the uninformed, what happened is the post office have been using the same technology for the last 20 years, and that technology is called Horizon. And they've been, I say it's been working to some degree, that the post office has put up with it. However, it seems like there's been accounting errors and a huge bugs that over the last 20 years have falsely reported or falsely flagged that there's been fraudulent transactions happening, to the point where multiple people over 2 decades have been prosecuted for like basically theft of funds and fraudulent transactions, when actually that hasn't been the case, and it's been on the software side. Again, links in the description down below.
Yeah, I mean, this is an article. We got this one from the Verge. It's quite scary, really, that this software, which is probably designed to protect people, has caused these people to be convicted. I couldn't find actually what they'd been convicted of. Like, some of these people could be in prison or something. I wouldn't know. But it's quite scary to think that this software has caused this.
Yeah, I'm just going over the article now. Bear me a moment, because I read it about 3 days ago, when it was fresh off the press. So Boris Johnson actually tweeted out. It's weird how official tweets are becoming. You ever thought about that? It's like, I think like 10 years ago, Twitter. Anyway, I'll get back on subject. So he says, I welcome the Court of Appeal's decisions to overturn the convictions of 39 former sub-postmasters in the Horizon dispute, an appalling injustice which has had a devastating impact on these families for years. Lessons should and will be learned to ensure this never happens again. Horizon was made by Japanese company Fujitsu, and information from it was used to prosecute 736 post office employees between 2000 and 2014, some of whom ended up going to jail. Bugs in the system would cause it to report that accounts that were under the employee's control were short.
It's just 700 people over.
Yeah. The BBC has reported that some employees even try to close the gap by remortgaging their homes or using their own money. I don't want to get this video flagged, but there is to point out that it got so bad that at least there's one person reported in this article that killed themselves. So maybe we can cut this part out.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, you would, wouldn't you, if you were being told you'd done something you hadn't, and it's basically cost you your life, your house, your family, your freedom.
Yeah, it's mad. Honestly. Like 736 people, and he said 39 former sub postmasters in the Horizon dispute have been overturned. This is still ongoing. Some of the criminal prosecutions haven't actually been overturned yet, and you have to think that if this was the case and the system is faulty and it's proven to be buggy and it is like shorting accounts artificially, what if one of the people that were prosecuted did actually steal money, but now he's going to get overturned and let out? I'm not saying they shouldn't be let out, because I think it's important that the wrong people do get out of prison.
Well, I guess one of the other questions is, what is this counting error? Is this money actually going somewhere else? Is it it makes you wonder what if it's, why these shorts are coming up?
I mean, nothing has been reported as far as I know, because this is a pretty fresh story. Nothing that I know of states where the money's actually gone. I mean, whether it is just a rounding error or it's something more substantial. I mean, this is literally just me saying something, and there's no evidence, and I'm not making an accusation, but the developers, Fujitsu, what if they've put something in there to deliberately siphon off cash,
Yeah, I mean, someone could have hacked into it and changed it.
Exactly. I mean, for this to happen for over 2 decades is crazy.
Yeah, I guess there'll be a proper investigation into this. It'll probably take years before we find out everything that's happened.
Yeah, no, 100%. I really hope that the wronged parties do come out of this on top, because there are talks of settlement deals and things. It's a huge deal, honestly. But it does take us nicely into our follow-up, which is the post office scandal. Ex-boss quits director jobs as after scandal. So, yeah, the former chief executive of the post office has quit her roles on the boards of Morrison's and Dunelm following the IT scandal, which led to the wrongful convictions of former postmasters. So, essentially, I mean, it's kind of expected, because if you've performed poorly in a position that is so critical to a company, and there's a track record that's like 2 decades long, that's like coming up to my entire lifespan, basically, if you think about it. I mean, I'm only 25. So, yeah, it's expected that if you're not able to do the job, then you step down and let somebody more able to fill the role, I mean, that's what happened with the prime minister, the post pre-Brexit prime minister, then dropping out through their term and letting a post-Brexit prime minister take over that had a vision for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually know any of it was her fault or that she did a bad job, but I think it's quite common when you're in, an executive position where if something bad, the company does something bad, you just kind of take the blame for it, really. it's kind of a way of the company kind of shirking off the responsibility from themselves.
Well,
and
when
someone
you
be a
are
scapegoat.
when you are a director, you take responsibility for things in the company. I mean, you either do that or you do find a scapegoat. I mean, there's a quote for her on this article. This is a BBC article. I have therefore stepped down with immediate effect from all of my board positions. She said, it is obvious that my involvement with the post office has become a distraction from the good work undertaken by the boards I serve. So a bit of background on this is a Ms. Venels, her name is Paula Venels. So announced Paula Venels would leave after serving as a non-executive director since 2016. She is relinquishing her non-executive position at home furnishing retailer Dunelm with immediate effect. I think she's just stepping down from all, like, any director positions she held, any board of directors positions she's held. So the government has launched an inquiry into the prosecution of the former post office workers. Yeah. I'm truly sorry for the suffering caused to the 39 sub-postmasters as a result of their convictions, which were overturned last week. There's only 39 overturned convictions, though. That seems incredibly low. It's not even 10% of,
Takes years for stuff to go through court anyway, so it'll all have to be investigated and looked into before we, like I say, before we kind of know anything else.
Because this article, the other one said there was 500 and something. This one says more than 700 people.
Yeah.
That's mad. So, yeah. Questions had been raised about the behaviour of post office directors during this time, and Ms. Venels, 62, faced calls to have her bonuses clawed back and stripped of her CBE title, which had been given for her services to the post office and to charity. I mean, I don't care about titles, to be honest. That doesn't really bother me. But it's crazy. I just feel so bad for these people. The thing is that it wasn't as if the issues weren't raised. The article, I'm not going to find the exact quotes, but in the article it says that the issues have been raised time and time again, and the post office has done nothing to action it or address it because either they didn't want to or they didn't believe that it was a system. They literally defended Horizon every time. And, you have to have some loyalty to the people involved. Your workers, you look after the people look after the products, and the products look after the profits. And that's basically where I'm going to end my opinion on this. But what do you guys think? Do you think that the post office could have done a better job to, protect their employees, look after them? Do you think that you would, if you were in the position of the director, would you have made the same calls to defend your corporate interests and appease the board of directors? I want to hear from you in the comments down below, and smack a like on this video.
Speaking of things that are rather unfortunate, this article from Reuters, Bitcoin tumbles below $50,000 over Biden tax plans. So he's brought in a new capital gains tax. So anyone earning more than 1 million, in profit, will get a 39.6% capital gains tax. That's doubled from what it was previously. This has obviously had a hit on basically all cryptocurrencies as this has come in.
I think it's a good thing, to be honest, because capital gains, honestly, they're the lowest tax part of any income. Employees get taxed, and then the people that are self-employed get hit with the worst tax. I know in the UK it's 50% tax for self-employed people, and corporations.
Depends on how much you earn,
but generally speaking, if you're in the higher earning tax bracket, it's 50%. There's a lot of potential in capital gains, speculating, getting your money to work for you. That's how the rich make the majority of that. I'm talking about the top 0.1%. That's how they make the majority of their money. It's not through manual labor. It's not through corporations. It is from investment. And I'm in no way qualified to give investing advice, so this is not investing advice. But when you're looking at Bitcoin, you have to think of it as, in my opinion, a really, really volatile, like, emotional person, because it gets very upset over the tiniest things. And when there's no looking at the week chart for Bitcoin is like looking at the 5-second chart for like normal stocks. There's just no point. If you need to take the long view, it's kind of a joke in the crypto community, and you can vouch for this, that the most tried and trusted technique for making money on cryptos is to hodl, like hold on for dear life. You just put money in and you hold on. There's
a lot of luck involved in it. There's a lot of value in specific technologies as well. But I mean, I think what Biden's doing here is going to affect the crypto market a lot. With the tax stuff they're already bringing in, you know, people are going to have to declare all of their the Bitcoin that they own, which is going to be, you know, a digital asset. I think it's going to, will affect the well, not just the Bitcoin market, but it will affect the cryptocurrency market in general. People are going to be trying to avoid paying all that tax.
I mean, where there's tax, there's people trying to avoid it. Let's be real. Like, no, I don't think I feel like people should. It's a double, and this is a loaded, unpopular opinion I'm about to say. I think people should look at paying tax, especially in the UK, as the privilege that it is. Like, I actually, okay, I don't earn that much money, but I pay a decent chunk of my salary into council tax and into income tax. And, it is a privilege to pay it, if I'm honest. So, like, it's always nice to have more money, but at the same time, you're giving back to your community, you're giving back to the people. That is how we are looking after each other. That's how the roads get fixed. That's how, things get done. That's how the world moves.
I mean, we're operating at a loss every year. So the tax system definitely doesn't work properly in the UK. I think probably most of the money should be coming from big enterprise, big businesses, people that are earning under 50,000, say, probably shouldn't be paying a lot of tax at all, because it encourages them to put more money back into the system. I definitely don't think that paying tax is a privilege.
I don't know. I think it's a privilege. I think that, we live in. You are right that the system is broken, and I've got a couple of things to say on that. One is, I honestly think until you reach 6 figures, you should be paying like minimum like 12% tax or something, because I think that that's going to be such a minute amount. There's a lot of people. The only problem is there's a lot of people earning a little bit of money. So it's a lucrative shooting fish in a barrel market for tax, right? Then you got a few people that are earning so much money, but they have so much sway and influence that they can go, can you make it so we don't pay that much money? Like, can we have a loophole? Can we have a haven? So I get it.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon pays in the UK 14 million in tax on 3 billion of revenue.
See, that's garbage,
nothing.
Man.
Yeah, was it like 1% or something?
Yeah.
Like, how much is 14 million tax as far as the average person goes a year?
Do you know what the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire is, right?
A few zeros.
About $1 billion. Like, it takes 1 million times 1,000 times to be a billionaire. So, you know, like that's a percent of a percent they're paying. And that is absolute garbage. And how they get away with that is beyond me. That is like accounting wizardry if they're not being prosecuted for that. But, you know,
that's one of the biggest problems with the rich is that they can afford an accountant to save them paying as much money for things.
100% agree. And like money buys. Somebody posted something on Reddit that I responded to the other day, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't be bothered to get it up in front of me. But what it was like, if money's the root of all evil, then why did the church want it? And I was like, well, money buys things that it buys access, right? If you have money, it can get you into places that other people couldn't get in. And price is a very good separator. It creates a two-tier system. And my comment was basically that the church, in an ideal world, the church want to use money to give back to the community. Obviously, that's not the case, and we've seen it time and time again. But you know, they want to build up the people around them and everything. But yeah, money is a weird thing, and the more you have of it, the easier it is basically to live. And yeah, I mean, that's literally what money's for. It's a social lubricant. I love tangents. I go off on them so many times.
Yeah. I was going to say, speaking of billionaires, but actually I don't think your next article mentions Mr. Musk, does it?
No, it doesn't. But it's kind of related because it's about electric cars. So it directly impacts Tesla. But the UK replaces France as Europe's second largest car market, which is pretty neat. And they don't predict that France is going to overtake the UK anytime soon. So 31,800 battery electric cars were sold in the UK in the first 3 months of the year, and only 30,500 sold in France.
Yeah, I mean, I bet a lot of those are sold in, you know, towns. A lot of that percentage is probably in London.
Oh God, yeah. One thing I've noticed is that there was concern in this article about the infrastructure for charging stations. I mean, we're a small country, and I don't think it's going to be too difficult to get that set up, to be honest.
I mean, this is 31,000 cars. That's not too many, but there's like millions of cars in general on the road. So obviously, if we all swap, it's not going to work. But yeah, I don't see why we can't cover that many. I mean, someone near me, I see them trailing a cable out their front window every night to charge their car. So it's obviously something you can do at home as well.
Yeah, exactly. Going back to what you were saying about it's a small number in comparison to the amount of cars we have in general. True, but it's like in the advent of the first automobile, you know, the first car, there was a lot more horses and carriages than there were people with cars, and you know, they were literal death traps, these cars. There's an article we spoke about last week, right, about the Tesla crash that unfortunately killed 2 people, but it's so early days for electric cars that I can understand why people are skeptical. I mean, it's got past the point where it's a fad now, and it is the way of the future. It's just when is it going to be widely adopted? Because I think the main concern is there's just not a fully affordable option for general consumers. Like even the aftermarket's really expensive as well for like fully electric cars.
Yeah, I think the average person doesn't buy a new car, so it makes it very difficult. And used electric cars generally aren't as good. They don't have the range they did when you bought them, and this kind of thing. And a replacement battery is really expensive.
Have you considered it?
Not really. I mean, a used car would be 40 or 50 times my budget for buying a car. and if it's got a bad battery, you're looking at what, £6,000-7,000 to replace that, to buy yourself 5, 6, 7 more years of use out of it. I mean,
that's mad. How long have you had the car you've got now?
About 6 years.
6 years. And if it's not a rude question, what did you pay for that?
£1,500.
£1,500, 6 years usage.
Yeah.
I think if I'm right, the tax is lower on electric cars, right? The road tax.
I think it's free, but there might be changes coming for that now, because obviously they don't get any tax from fuel. So I think there is some kind of tax that will be coming in for electric cars. I can't remember exactly what it is now. I saw something somewhere.
Yeah, and electricity in the UK is not particularly cheap, and those car batteries are going to be a beast to charge. I would have thought it'd be like, I couldn't even fathom it. I only spend like 60 quid on electricity for a month to fuel my tiny flat. So
light bulb, a laptop, and a fridge, like.
Yeah. And a TV I never turn off. Yeah, basically. I could probably save more money. I'm just bad with it.
Yeah, I mean, electric's probably just going to go up in price as well, as that becomes the only thing. They got to get their tax from somewhere, haven't they? So,
Oh, definitely. Like we spoke about China last week. Remember how they expect their demand, especially for cryptocurrency, to exceed the electricity costs for 83 countries, if I remember correctly.
Sounds right.
Sounds relatively accurate. Yeah. And, we're becoming more and more dependent on electricity. And obviously, we are pushing for a greener, more sustainable fossil fuel future. Not fossil fuel future. A greener, more sustainable, renewable future. Sorry, big oils in my pocket. Sponsored by Standard Oil. Buy green.
Oil, yes.
Buy crude.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say what the future is, really, isn't it? I mean, we always come with new technology to try and solve our problems, basically. So, it's exciting to see some of the alternatives, especially for transport.
I wonder what technology we're gonna create to help with like the social interaction. How to get people talking to each other more, and like getting people to have meaningful, trusting conversations where you can rely on each other. Like, how are we going to simulate that authentic human experience?
Well, I guess in the future, you'll be able to just Bluetooth with someone. You'll be able to read each other's mind and thoughts, and then within 5 seconds, you'll know whether or not you want anything to do with them.
Every man in every country in the world has just kind of went, oh God, imagining his girlfriend, wife, boyfriend, whatever, get into his thoughts and realize how sick his mind is.
Well, if it's not your significant other, then it'll probably be the government. So
that is true. This podcast brought to you by Big Government.
Just not big government money.
Yeah. We want your information now. Anti-lockdown protesters defy restrictions in central London march. Oh, I have things to say about this.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So the basic thing is that people are protesting because they do not want like COVID vaccine passports.
And or really lockdowns in general.
Yeah, there's a lot of emphasis on the lockdowns. And ironically, the lockdowns are kind of coming down as we speak. I mean, I wouldn't even say we're in a lockdown anymore. Like, it's very difficult to get into a pub at the moment. Have you had any experience with that yet?
Yes, I've been booking a table to get into the pub because that's how you get in at the moment.
How is it? How is that for you? Because I know you have a local you go to. Are you getting into the pub?
Like, we just book it. If you don't book it, then you won't get in.
Is there a wait list though?
Not well. We get in early, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
We book a week in advance pretty much most of the time.
Because I was shopping around for a place in city centre, Oxford city centre, like last Saturday because I had had an interaction, social outing, and yeah, it was really difficult to go to the city centre. I mean, it was, to be fair, it was the first weekend where places opened up, and it does feel like we were being pushed down. And I hesitate to use the word repressed because that's such like a big word, but it does feel like for the last 4 months, 3 months, we were just like, everything was so stressed and compacted, and there was no separation between where I'm working, where I'm living, and how I enjoy myself. And going out and just having the option to go to the pub, like, so much pressure just came out, and like, just, oh, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like lockdown anymore. That's for sure.
Yeah, so I don't really agree with these I don't agree with these anti-lockdown protests for a lot of reasons. One is because masks have some use, especially in crowds. Like, okay, social distancing and masks, they do need to kind of work in tandem. You know, they're useless without the 6 feet of separation, and like, useless is a strong word.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I definitely respect people's right to have this protest. I mean, we've been locked down too long. It's had a huge effect on, how many businesses have been shut down, how many people have died waiting for their surgery because, they're on a backlog now. I mean, the government put a thing over there saying over the next 5 years, like 80,000 people are going to die because the surgery has been pushed back so far. Like, people are not being able to get cancer treatment. I mean, it gets to a point where we do just have to open up and, live our lives. Unfortunately, people die at some point in their life, and we can't save everyone.
No, you're right, and I think that I feel like these lockdowns have gone on long enough at this point, but we are scaling them back. I mean, it's going to be July where the first date reaches where we plan to open up again. And
or is it a month away? I don't remember.
Say again?
Or is it because the last one was April? Is there one in May? I'm not sure. There's like a system.
We can now go into restaurants in May, and then they have further things like.
Yeah, it's just like a step every month, basically, getting more eased.
I think, the earliest date to come fully out of lockdown and go back to like full on normality is July. But it really depends on if we kind of hit all our performance indicators, for lack of a better word. We hit all our goals, and I mean, I have kind of an opinion on the COVID passports, and it's just from what I was reading when I was doing my research for these articles. And it's that there is the worry that people have voiced concerns that the people that physically, due to allergies or whatever, or illnesses, can't get the COVID vaccine, could be discriminated against for not having these COVID vaccines, which is a concern. Sorry, COVID passports. So many terms. And I genuinely am worried that if that's the case, then there's going to create two tiers in a society. There's people that can get into places with ease because they have these COVID passports, and people that can't because they're being discriminated against. And it is a valid concern. I mean, there are restrictions when you're traveling to go into some countries. You need like your yellow fever, like inoculation and things. And it does make sense, but that's only for specific circumstances. And these vaccines have had years and years and years of refining, and they've been researched thoroughly. It's not the same as didn't have like 10 months research for the COVID vaccine before
they start to end it or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole passports things kind of reminds me of, was it Your Papers, Please, or whatever, if you know that reference from Nazi Germany, where people would be required to provide papers to prove they're allowed to go in or out of places.
I didn't know it was from Nazi Germany, but I did realize that it's I've played game or watch someone play a game called Papers, Please.
Yeah, it's got some kind of scary kind of background behind it. We want freedom. Freedom.
I mean, we are literally advocating for freedom in this podcast with the repealing of this Section 127 of the Communications Act of 2003 to expunge all convictions. Please put your name on this petition.
Link in the description.
Yeah, smack a like on the video to raise awareness. And please tell us what you think about everything we've discussed. Do you think that COVID passports are good, bad? Are you indifferent? Are you getting the vaccine? Are you not? Are we going to have a flame war in the comments? We'll only know if you respond. Thank you very much for watching our little slice of heaven podcast called The Chew Over. I'm Nick.
And I'm Jay.
And we will see you next time.